Hi guys. So here we are. I'm going to walk you through this Qlab project that we've been talking about doing. So um, Qlab audio content, you've hopefully downloaded that folder of sound files, as well as the Qlab software. So those are both inside the audio and Qlab folder on Blackboard for you. Okay. So those of you with Macs have downloaded Qlab software and also Qlab audio content. Once it expands, okay. So what we have is Qlab project audio.zip that you downloaded now is expanding right here into this little folder of sound files that I'm going to need in order to do this project. Cool, cool, cool. Great, awesome. Let me hide that. Okay, so then open Qlab 4.5 that just came out. So double click on Qlab, bring that up. Great. We don't have any of this template or recent workspaces because it's a brand new copy of the software. So I'm going to make a new workspace from the built-in blank workspace. So here we are in a Qlab workspace. Qlab as a software is a referencing software. So when you put sound files into it, it's not actually importing that file the way iTunes does. It's just linking to it. Because of that, it's important that you keep your files in a organized way so that you don't accidentally disconnect them from their Qlab file. Okay, so mine are in this folder right over here called audio that's inside of my sound folder for my Qlab project. So that's right there with my Qlab worksheet and some other stuff about sound that this project is entailing. So if you want to make yourself a folder for this project, that would probably be helpful to you. The next thing I need to know, right, and understand is what my goals are with my sound cues, okay? And that's all listed in this lovely worksheet for the assignment, okay? So the first step is your pre-show music. I'm going to walk through how you do that right now. I did not have a pre-recorded curtain speech available to you, so the curtain speech would be live on stage. I'm going to just change that for you right now. Then we'll talk about how to set up this transition for the transition music, which is covering the start of the rain. And then also how we duck it down under the dialogue. Like, these are all some really common things that you would do as a sound designer on a show. So let's start with our pre-show music playlist, and we'll come back and hit some of these other points as we go. So the pre-show music playlist, we need some music, right? There's nothing here. There's nothing going on. So let's look for that file over here. And I have some like random songs from the past that various kids have used in the past on a project similar to this one. Okay, so there's a Hosier song that'll work for pre-show. Let's see what else we got. That looks like it's a song. This is a Radiohead cover. Let's do one more. Okay, so here's 4 songs. The way Qlab works is if you hit the spacebar or the go button, it starts playing the song. Right? There it is, coming out of my speakers into your ears. Okay. There are a lot of options about routing. I'm not going to go too far down that road right now. For now, I'm just going to teach you how to program this sequence of stuff. If this were iTunes, I could hit the spacebar and it would stop. However, in Qlab, if I hit the spacebar, it's just going to start playing another song on top of the song that's already playing, right? Or another song, or 4 songs all playing at once. This mess is not what we were going for, okay? Right? No, thank you, stop. To make it stop, I hit escape. So I hit escape, makes everything stop. Escape is a bailout option. It's not our ideal way of operating in Qlab, but it is the way. If everything is like chaos and you just need to bail out, you can hit escape and you'll be out. So here's how I set up my pre-show list, right? The first thing I do, load up my songs, okay? I'm also noticing that it's numbering them for me. I don't want it to do that because it's gonna keep putting more numbers every time. And ideally, pre-show, you trigger it once and that's it. And then you don't do anything with pre-show. It runs by itself until you're ready to start the show. And that would be your second cue. So really, I don't need any of these numbers. I'm going to go into, I'm going to go into this little sun-shaped thing, the settings, and I'm going to have it not auto number, right? So it says auto number new cues with increment. I'm going to ask it not to do that by checking that box, so it won't auto the numbers anymore. That's going to help us out. Okay, great. So now I can also just go through and delete the cue numbers. You can do it individually, or you can select a bunch of cues and use their automatic delete method, but since I only have 4, it's pretty easy for me to delete those numbers. The next thing I'm going to do is take these 4 songs, which I want to operate as a block, and I'm going to group them together. If you select them first and then click the group button, it'll place them all in a group together. Otherwise, you have to create a group and then move them individually into that group. So this is the group button. It looks like a stack of papers. When I select the group button, now all 4 of those songs are inside of this group. I'm going to name this group pre-show, right? Because that's its purpose, pre-show music. And now all this sets up for you is that the first one will start playing when you trigger the pre-show, and then it'll line up the second song, okay? What we want to have happen is this song, first song, plays all the way through to the end, and as soon as it ends, the second song starts, right? We want it to autoplay into the next song. So in order to do that, I come over here to this column, which looks like a bunch of little arrows, right? There are 2 ways that this can operate. If you click one time, it's auto continue. If you click a second time, it's auto follow, okay? So when you click auto continue, and it looks like a little feather almost, then as soon as this song starts, the next one will start at the same time. So if I hit go now, these 2 songs are starting simultaneously, okay? If I click on that one more time and I get what looks more like an anchor than a feather, right? It's an arrow with a dot at the top. It's now going to automatically count in the post weight equivalent to the length of the song. So action here in this case is the length of the song. Post weight is how long do I wait before I start the next thing, okay? So it now will play through this song, and when this song is finished, it will start the next song. And that's why it's now queued up, the third song. Okay? I can skip ahead in this song. Theoretically, maybe I need to open up my little sidebar. Active cues. There we go. I can skip ahead in the song. Almost to the end. Okay. Once it's over, it'll follow on to the next one. I say this like I know it's going to be true. There we go. Next one starts. Okay. We want to set up all of the songs in our pre-show, except for the last one, to auto-continue, to auto-follow into the song after them, after the song completes. So to do that, I just click in this box until they all until all 3 of these turn into the little arrow that looks like an anchor. I clung to you. You need to stop singing now. All right, so I'm going to shut those off. Great. So that's my pre-show. It's now set up so that if I start playing it, the next one will follow until it plays this song, and then it'll stop. The next thing that I want to do is put a fade cue that will fade out the pre-show once we finish playing through it, right? So once this pre-show sequence is done on stage and we want to follow into our curtain speech, we need to fade out that pre-show music. And we don't know exactly how long it's going to be until we fade that pre-show music out, because there could be like, we're holding the house, or somebody's late, or we're ready to start early. Any of those things are kind of possible, although more often it's a late-comer situation. So this is my fade cue. I'm going to drag one of these into the timeline. You can also learn all your keyboard shortcuts for those things. Right now it has no target cue, so what do I fade, it says to me. And I'm like, well, let me help you figure that out. So I'm going to drag pre-show over that fade cue. So now it's like, okay, I'll fade pre-show, but it still has an X next to it because it doesn't know what direction I'm fading it. So with my fade highlighted, I'll come down here and I'll see audio levels. I'm going to drag that master audio level down and say stop target when done. So now it's going to fade and stop pre-show wherever in the sequence we are. Okay? So what this does now is songs playing. And then wherever we are in that sequence, I can just fade it right out. No problem. Great. So that's my second cue when you're looking at your cue list and sound cues are labeled with letters. So my first cue will be cue A, and this is the line that triggers that. This will be cue B, which is the fade and stop of pre-show. All right, great. So now this one is the transition music starts and then rain follows that, okay? And that will be C, which is our transitional sequence, okay? Because this has more than one part to it, I'm going to go ahead and add a group for that transition. So this is transition into scene 1, and this is after the curtain speech ends. We would want to bring up this little piece of music. Let's pick a piece of music from my folder of content. What's this? Let's try that, okay? So I'm going to use this random song, okay? I'm dragging it now into this folder. If you notice, there's a little blue dot. I'm dragging it inside of the folder, which means that the blue dot is kind of over here instead of out there. Do you see what's happening? So I want it to be inside of this folder. The folder's highlighted. So that is going to be the music that starts playing, okay? And then we wanted to have rain fade up under that music, okay? So I have this heavy rain 30 minutes track that I'm going to drag into that group as well. In this case, I want the rain to start after the first little phrase of this song. And I can go look over here at time and loops, right? I can make some adjustments, and I want to just like have this first little part happen. The first thing I'm going to do is trim the beginning of this song because there's this quiet section before it even starts playing. I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. So now it starts right with the guitar. But what's happening, it's not awesome, right, is that the rain comes in exactly at the same time. I want the rain to fade up and not to start out playing that loud, okay? To have this rain fade up, I'm going to grab a fade cue, right? I'm going to drop it right under that rain. I'm going to make that the target by dragging it over that fade cue. And then I'm going to set a level for it, maybe minus 10. Okay, I'm going to start it out at audio level minus infinity. Minus infinity. No, it's not quite happy. Let's try that. Minus infinity. So now what should happen is I should play this and it fades in. Got it? Okay. So in order for those things to happen simultaneously, for it to start fading in right when that is triggered, let me make this a little bit of a slower fade, like 6 seconds. And then I'm going to make it auto follow. So now when I trigger this cue, the rain is slowly fading in. Got it? Great. Let's start a little bit higher. Let's start there. Let's try one more time. Low battery. Oh, poor Mac. Mac is dying. Oh, that sounds much better, right? Did you catch the difference to your ear with that? Mac is dying. Hopefully the power. Great. So I like this a lot better. The other thing I kind of want to do is have it maybe wait a few seconds of the song before that comes in. To do that, I'm going to come over here and add a little pre-wait. So I'm going to say, hey, rain, if you would please wait for 3 seconds before you even start, so we can hear the music start and then we can hear the rain come in underneath it. Here's what that would sound like. Okay. So this is into that transitional look. Right? At some point, we're going to want the scene to actually start. Right? So this is the scene change transition. Scene 1 begins. Okay. Because you stole my car, I'm singing this song. I want this to be. So I think I could do, right, is just loop that guitar bit at the beginning. Wouldn't do that idea. We'll talk about that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. So now I'm going to fade out the song completely in this cue. I'm still playing to that same point of it, okay? And then I'm going to minus infinity, right? Master, base, that target, and done. So what will happen now when I hit this key D, scene 1 begins, it'll just fade the music and it's leaving the rain. This rain is probably by itself a little too loud for them to be doing the scene over it. So I'm going to take the rain down to like half of the volume, to a little less than half, or maybe a little more than half of the volume, just less, right? There's just too much rain happening right now. So now I'm going to drag this, set that target there, right, by hovering over it. And then I'm going to kind of guess at what level I think I would want it. Let's try fading it down to -29. So yeah, it's still there. It might be a little too soft now. So maybe -21 instead of -29. Let's see what that does. It's a little better. Maybe -23. Somewhere in the middle. Split the difference. I feel like that's a good level now, right? So I've set that level. Rain is going to keep playing through the whole scene 1, okay? So that gets me to, so that's 5, which I have marked on my cue list as D, okay? So then the next thing on my list of stuff I want is a hotkey triggered gunshot, okay? So if you have a gun in your show, it might fail, and that's no bueno, and you sometimes would want to have a hotkey that can trigger that gunshot just in case you need it. Do I have one? I sure don't. Okay, well, let's take a little detour then to locate a gunshot. I will add this to your Qlab contents or to the file here, but we're going to take a little detour to free sound. Gunshots never sound good. It's just life. Let's do gunshot. I like this second one. I'm going to download this puppy. I'm going to download. It remembers me. They never email you if you become friends with free sound. It's not a problem. Alright, so I've just downloaded this gunshot. I'm going to move it from my downloads folder into my sound files folder. Great, so now I have a gunshot. That gunshot I don't want to be played most of the time. Like, for the most part, I don't want there to be a gunshot in the show, in the sound files. This is a backup. So what I'm going to do is put it in its own separate cue list. So if you look over here, we have a main cue list, right? We're going to add a new list, and this is going to be special effects. So let's just put this gunshot in here all by itself. Put this guy over here, gunshot, bang. Okay, so now when you're looking at something like this gunshot, you can change its trigger. Usually it's triggered by the go button. In this case, we want to set a hotkey trigger for it, and I want it to be G, right? G for gunshot. G for gun, okay? So now, when we're in our main cue list, if the gun doesn't go off, I can hit G and get a gunshot. And basically as much as I want, okay? So that's my backup now. Cool, got that. What's next on my list? So the next thing I'm gonna do is a transition here. Same basic idea where we take a little piece of music which covers the ambient rain, fading out, and the morning sounds fading in, the morning sounds to continue playing. Whew. Okay, so let me grab the morning sounds. Cool. I'm gonna pick another little piece of like the beginning stretch. What's the beginning of this song? Sure. We'll just take the beginning of this song. Okay, and I'm gonna group this all together again because it's a group. This is transition into scene 2. This will be QE, and we're gonna do several things, right? So the first thing is this is gonna start playing. Let's see how that starts. So I think that'll be fine. Oops, I hit escape. So my heavy rain sounds stopped. So let me get those up and running. So I preloaded that and fade it down to the level it would be under the scene. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is start that piece of music. Then I'm going to have a fade, and it's going to fade out the heavy rain sounds completely. We got a couple fades going on. That's okay. We're going to use them all. So let's fade out these heavy rain sounds. I'm going to go back up to the actual cue, highlight that. So now it's the fade for the heavy rain sounds. We're going to make that fade all the way out to -infinity and stop target when done. That's going to happen after the music starts playing. So let's do like a 2-second pre-wait, have it fade out the heavy rain. And then after it's faded out, we want to fade up your fresh morning sounds, okay? So I'm going to take my fresh, ooh, there's a video component, cute. So I'm going to take my fresh morning sounds, audio levels. We're going to start it out at -infinity or -55 or something. Yeah, -55-ish. And then we're going to have it fade up. So something like that. And see how loud that is, okay? I want that to happen after this heavy rain has stopped, okay? So that's kind of nice because I can have it fade and stop. This transition into scene 2. Let's see what it says on my cue list. So transition into scene 2 is going to automatically fade out once this is complete. Okay, so I'm going to add one more fade. That's going to take out this song. And we're going to stop it when it's done. And let's give it maybe 2 seconds before that happens. And set up all these follows, and let's see if this works. Not bad, although I did somehow get the video component playing back, which I don't actually need. Let me take a look at this guy, and I want it to be not playing video. There we go. I'm just going to delete that surface. here's what we do, right? To make this not be a video. We're just going to delete it, and you notice I hit delete, nothing happens. It makes a don't do that sound. If you hold down Command and delete, you can actually delete a thing. So it came in automatically as a video cue, but we don't want the video to play. So I'm going to grab this audio cue, drop that into the timeline, and then I'm going to bring that Fresh Morning Sounds video and just target the audio of it. Okay, so now it's not going to take over my life. It's just going to play the sound portion, right? We're just hearing the sound. We're not watching the movie. So that's how we solve that problem. Okay, so now this whole thing should all play out pretty neatly. I'm going to make this about 1 second so that I can kind of get in under the wire of the beginning of the singing on that song. So that's my transition into scene 2. Then I have a tea kettle, right? Is that what it says next? So tea kettle from off stage. My tea kettle from off stage is gonna, so my Fresh Morning Sounds are still playing, right? Continues to play. Great. Now I want this tea kettle, and my tea kettle sound effect is right here. Boom. That's going to be F. I want this tea kettle sound to only come from one side of the stage. So in order to do that, I would change my cross points here. Okay, so this is my routing, right? If I bring down this number 2, right? Now it's all going to go out the left instead of the right channel. Which you can't tell in this video, but it is doing that. I also need, so I only really need this first repetition of this tea kettle business. So we're going to trim it down, and we also want it to start right when it's supposed to. Okay, so there's the tea kettle. Typically with the tea kettle, it would loop, right, so that it continues until someone picks up the tea kettle. So if I do this with my trims, I can make it loop, infinite loop, right? I can enable infinite loop over here, and now it will keep tea kettling, right, until we see the actor pick up that tea kettle. Oops, not wanting it to do. Okay, so now it's going to keep whistling until someone picks it up. When they pick that up, it will be QG, and at that point, it will fade out very quickly, right? The tea kettle will fade out in like 1 second. 1 second. Right, so that's the fade out. That's G. And then we do intermission music, right? The first thing that'll happen in intermission is that the morning sounds from this scene will fade out, and then, so I'm going to make this the intermission group. Okay, morning scenes will fade out, morning sounds, sorry, will fade out. Let's target that. Boom, fade Fresh Morning Sounds. Great. And we'll set that to fade and to stop when done. Pop that in there. And then the other thing I need is some songs. I'm going to just come up here to pre-show and select these same 3 songs, copy those. I just Control-C to copy and paste them in here. We're going to hit the auto-follow, auto-continue there so that this will fade out those sounds, bring up this intermission music, right? Play intermission music until intermission ends. So this intermission will be H, and then the fade out of intermission BI. And that will complete the project. Stop target when done. And fade out. Eyes and words are so icy on but she burns like rum. Boom. Done. Beautiful. So now I'm going to save this. Save. Workspace 2, right? Let me put this in the same folder with the other stuff that I already have going. Sound. Let me make sure that's where I want it. Yep. And this is Lily, and you would put your friends' names, right, in your other group. And then Qlab Project. Okay. You can save that right there and send it to me. The other thing you're going to want to do if you're ever transferring Qlab files, instead of sending it to me, I may pass around a hard drive and have you just transfer it onto that hard drive. When you do that, you want to bundle your workspace because the workspace is specific to the computer that you built it on. So if you go to bundle workspace, it's going to make a copy of all of the sound files as well as the programming file and put them into a folder that then is transferable from machine to machine. So if I say this guy here, and I will usually put the date that I bundled, so 09/11, 09/11/19, it's today, right? Bundle that, save it. Now it's going to make a copy of all of your audio files that you used, right? And bundle them all together, create a copy version of the whole project. So that's how you would safely save it. I'm going to now quit out of Qlab and teach some high school students some software and ask me questions when you have them. Thanks. Bye. Stop recording.